welcome to the trimmed down, hopefully nice and clean and coherent version of the tier list that I did for all of the Zordon Era Rangers. I'm recording a separate intro just so that, because I was a little disjointed when I was explaining it during the stream, but for this tier list, don't think of it as like if I'm putting someone on the top of the list, it's not because I necessarily think that they are S tier specifically, except for a few examples, which you'll see when we get to the video. But I wanted to compare all of the Zordon era Red Rangers, right? Which means not just Jason and Rocky and Tommy and TJ, but all three of Tommy's Red Ranger suits. All two of Tommy's Red Ranger suits. Yeah, because it went Jason. I'm already messing this up. But my point is, every color suit that was worn during the Zordon era is in this tier list. So I wanted to compare all of the reds, all of Andros. That's the sixth one that I was forgetting for reds. So Tanya is on here three times. Three times? There's somebody who's on. Catherine. That's who's on here three times. God, that was taking a minute. So I have Kimberly Mighty Morphin, I have Catherine Mighty Morphin, Catherine Zeo, Catherine Turbo, Cassie Turbo, and then Cassie in Space. So I have 6 Pink Rangers on this list. So I stacked them, not necessarily because I thought that was an S tier pink, this was a C tier pink, this was an E tier pink. I just stacked them in comparison to each other. And it is mostly based off of vibes, but also like how I think they did as a character in their specific season with that specific suit, which means Turbo suffered a lot because each suit only got half of a season. Anyway, so here are some highlights from that. I'm starting the editing process now, and I'm gonna try, hopefully that I can keep in enough stuff for every ranger. There's 32. There's 32 different ranger suits, and that's not counting things like Trey of Triforia. I didn't count the alien rangers. I didn't count when they were turned into kids. I didn't count ranger allies like Blue Centurion. This is just on the main team of 5 or 6 rangers, how they stack up with other ones of their colors. Down the road, we'll do tier lists where it is more of a full-on typical, I think this person over the course of their Power Rangers career is an S tier or a D tier. But for now, this is all the reds compared, this is all the blues compared to just the blues, the black rangers compared to just the black rangers, so on and so on. But of course, I'm not just going to go through the list chronologically. I made a spinner. All right, we got some folks guessing. We have some folks guessing red and green. Apparently, it's May, not December. You Yuletide motherfuckers. All right, we've got Catherine, specifically Turbo Pink Catherine. So where is she? Here she is. So when it comes to Pink Rangers, I'm just gonna put her here for now. When it comes to Pink Rangers, you've got Kimberly. You've got a lot of Catherines, and you've got Cassie. Now, at least Catherine as Turbo Pink didn't fuck up her leg by falling into water. I think Catherine was one of the better parts of Turbo. She had some of the better character-focused episodes. And because JDF had really checked out at that point, he was barely in Turbo until he finally got to leave. She kind of took the reins for a lot of the character focused episodes. And then also, like, probably because Pink equals girl equals motherly, did a lot of time keeping an eye on Justin. So, I'm actually going to leave her in A. This is probably going to change later. She's definitely not the best iteration of Pink. And she's also not Catherine's best time period. We'll move her down to B. I feel pretty comfortable putting her in B. This is fun! I've never done one of these. This is fun. Zane! No! TJ snuck in last minute, buddy. Sneaky little boy. Okay, where is TJ on here? There he is. I think now. Okay. Any of you who have followed me for more than 5 seconds know who my S tier Blue Ranger is going to be. That should not be a mystery to anyone. That being said, easy A tier. Easy A tier. For Blue, TJ in space. I am so sick of saying in space. I think TJ was a great Red Ranger. I just wish Turbo had brought in the new team much sooner than they did. Again, I'm going to talk about that more when I do the retrospective video. But TJ really got a chance to shine during In Space. He makes a much better Blue Ranger than a Red, mainly because he had an actual chance to be on screen. You know, they brought him in with less than half of Turbo to go. None of the 4 they brought in had time in Turbo to really get to do anything. Also, you're basing Turbo off of a very silly season Car Ranger versus the not as silly Mega Ranger, so it was easier to work with the footage. People want to see Jason, people want to see a Red. You only have 1 silver. You have a 1 in 30 chance of landing on silver. Tommy. This is going to be a really hot take. Tommy, Zio. Actually, no, I'm going to save that hot take for Tommy in Turbo. But Tommy and Zio, yeah, I think A tier is fair. He had the episode when he got kidnapped and brainwashed, and they had to break him out. Was Zio also the season he got the Dear John letter? Yeah, that was. Tommy does get brainwashed a lot, actually. Maybe Rita's original spell in Green with Evil, or whatever it was called, maybe that had like lingering effects compared to the Red Rangers who came before him. Because you gotta remember, Red Ranger Tommy is only our 3rd Red Ranger. We had Jason, Rodney, yes, I'm still calling him that, Tommy. Then Tommy again, then TJ, then Andros. Okay, Carlos. Black Ranger Carlos. Oh, it hurts to say it, but I think unfortunately he's the bottom of the Black Ranger list. The problem that Carlos had in both Turbo and during In Space was that he was simply not the main focus. Again, with Turbo, he came in late, which is a bummer, because, just like the other, as I mentioned, for all 4 of them, they didn't get a chance to do much in Turbo. Now, at least Carlos and Ashley got an episode introduction a handful of episodes before they became Rangers, but it would have been nice to see them doing things repeatedly leading up to getting the suits. But that's still better than what TJ and Cassie got. They got an introduction on the bus where Cassie was annoying the shit out of everybody, and TJ was failing to get her phone number. A lot of his moments as the Black In Space Ranger are overshadowed by the goofiest thing about In Space was how, and again I'll mention this when we hit Andros, because of how much of a goofball Kenta was. That meant that Andros had really awkward Sentai footage that they had to find a workaround for, but it also meant that any really awkward civilian plot line that belonged to Kenta got shuffled pretty much every time, got shuffled to Carlos. Carlos was the one who got his identity exposed in a fucking phone booth. And with the fake dating to fool Mega Yellow's grandmother, when they did that with Ashley's grandmother, they could have just had Andros be the fake dating, but instead they dragged in poor Carlos anyway. So some storylines they left point for point the same as the Sentai. Other ones they were like, no, we can't have the space boy do that. Let's make Carlos do that. You're not gonna share that load with TJ at any point. I hate to do it, but somebody's got to be somebody's got to be the bottom of the list for each color. And unfortunately for black, I think that's got to be Carlos. Even in one of the best episodes of In Space, he's overshadowed by Adam. With a broken morpher. People really want to see it land on silver. You got a 1 in 30 chance of it landing on silver, and then it fucking lands on silver. Nope, denied, it lands on pink. Cassie's In Space. I'm going to put Cassie higher than Catherine in this one. I'm going to move Catherine down a notch for a few reasons. One, it was an entire season that Cassie got to have instead of the half season that Catherine got to have during Turbo. And she did have some really fun episodes. There was the episode with them doing chores on the ship, which was an excuse for her and Ashley to fight so they could work in the footage of Mega Yellow being captured by Yellow and Psycho Yellow and Psycho Pink. She also, again, when all of the new cast came in during Turbo, you could really see they were struggling. Like, it took them several episodes to have a very solid, it's Morphin time! Like, you gotta put your whole Rangercy into that. But by the time we hit In Space, Cassie and everyone else was much, much more comfortable. The GOAT! The GOAT! The GOAT! Ah, my man, this is not a debate. This is S tier all the way. Hate that it cut off the image. This is S tier. S plus, triple S platinum nuggets. He's my man. He is my man. This is going to be very heavily vibes based, if that wasn't already clear. You know, vibes based off of the characters, based off of what I know of behind the scenes stuff, which we'll get to when it's relevant with some of the cast. Billy was the GOAT. Billy was the GOAT. Man invented a flying car within the first half dozen episodes. Every monster of the week, he either already had a gadget to deal with them, or he slapped together a gadget to deal with them. He fought off mind control. He is to date, I've seen all the way up through the start of Samurai, he is to date, from what I have seen, the only Ranger to kill a monster of the week with just his fucking sidearm. I know other Rangers have dealt solo kills with their individual Zords. That's not exactly unique, but he was one of the first ones to do it. With his Shogun Zord. Made the communication devices that were still being used all the way through in fucking space, mainly because they just kept using the same props and they didn't want to make new ones. And that's not even getting into what David Yost personally had to deal with all the bullshit behind the scenes. So he is the GOAT. He is everything a Ranger should be on and off camera. The GOAT! They put that movie on Netflix. I kind of want to watch it. It looks. I like the animation style, if nothing else. All right, there's your Jesus. You got your Jesus. Tommy's complicated. On this list, there are 4-6 Rangers. In reverse order, Zane, Jason, and then both suits for Tommy. But I don't think he's nearly the best. I think especially White Ranger Tommy gets overhyped as Power Rangers Jesus. I know that JDF was literally not pulling his punches with the stunt actors, and it actually caused a lot of problems. He was hurt. He knew how to fight, he didn't know how to do stunts, which meant he was hitting people full force. Not cool, dude. That's not cool. If you know how to fight, you know how to fucking control your hits. Yeah, no, this is a hot take. Tommy is nowhere near the best Rangers. Thank you for not landing on a second Tommy in a row. I think it's fair. You know what? I'm going to move Red Ranger Tommy down to B, and I'm going to put Red Ranger TJ in A. Now, you might think that's a hot take. But let's acknowledge what this man did. Let's acknowledge what TJ actually did. coming in halfway through Turbo, dealt with the Eratan nature spirit with no fucking experience, dealt with it very well. Stepped in and helped clear Bulk and Skull's name. Those were separate episodes, yep. And tossed a salad. Yeah. You got to acknowledge the toss salad line. That, you know what? I think it's fair to say that, like, in universe, because that was one of the first episodes after they had switched teams, and I think it's really fair to be like, he was just like, shit, I'm a Power Ranger. I gotta have a. You ever go into a situation where you're like, I need a strong one liner, and then you say something, and you're like, I shouldn't have said that. It's like, I love that even Justin like turns and looks at him like, what the fuck, dude? So I think that's really fair. And then, but also then at the end of the season, he had to help defend the command center with what, less than 24 episodes of experience as a ranger. And honestly, he did. And then he led them into space. He led them into outer space. He fucking and yeah, again, we are going to keep referencing Sentai footage because of how the Sentai footage does influence the Ranger footage, the Ranger situations. When they were fighting Gold Goyle, that was the final boss of Car Ranger. Now, in Car Ranger, they fed him some expired Emo Yokon, I think is how you pronounce it. The treat that makes the Bozaks grow, but if it's expired, it makes them shrink. So they force fed it to Emperor Exhaust to make him shrink from kaiju size down to human size. Well, obviously, Power Rangers Turbo can't do that. So having TJ feed him their weapons and blow him up from the inside, that's a very creative way to adapt the footage. And that's a ballin' decision on his part. He didn't know that they were about to attack the command center after that. He didn't know that that they were about to send Demetria away and Blue Centurion. He didn't know that. He had to fucking make a judgment call in the moment. And I think he made some good fucking judgment calls. I don't hate the Alien Rangers. They just don't have enough going on for me to include them here. Ah, the OG. And yes, that is a photo of the action figure. I couldn't find a good... Oh, wait, no, that's not the OG. That's Rocky. Very similar to TJ. And since we have both TJs up here, this is easy for me to talk about. He's better as blue than as red. Rodney is not the worst red, but he is far from the best. A big factor of that is, once again, coming in halfway through a season, this time because of the Peace Conference. It really fucked with his ability to step into the role. And then that's also on top of, he did not even get to be a leader the way Red Rangers are supposed to be, because they gave that to Power Rangers Jesus. He got to be the leader. He's going in D. D for dumbass. It also doesn't help that one of his very first episodes after coming in season 2, he got hit with the pachinko monster and acted even stupider than usual. So there's really not much to discuss for Rocky. This man literally took himself out of the running in the Turbo movie. Someone asking in the chat, do you find it difficult to separate the character from the actor? I do sometimes. Example, Jason. And the funny thing is, do you mean... Oh god, of course, right when I said Jason, I summoned the son of a bitch! As much as I hate to say it, as much as I hate to put him so high, I don't think there's any denying that he is S tier. Hear me out. For those of you who want him lower, I agree. I understand. Here's my logic. I don't think White Ranger Tommy saved Power Rangers. I do think Green Ranger Tommy had a huge impact on its popularity, and if it had not been made that popular, it might not have lasted as long as it did. In universe, the man unmorphed without any powers to morph in the first place, threw hands with Goldar. And it wasn't until he got tased like a bitch. Love that. I love that meme that I have going. That he got his powers back. He is the original Sixth Ranger. He is the reason that we have so much hype. Why Sixth Rangers are such an event in Power Rangers specifically. His narrative importance has a higher value as Green Ranger than it does as White Ranger. Does that make more sense if I say it that way? White Ranger, especially because they made him the leader after changing up half the cast, he's just another Ranger at that point. It doesn't fucking matter. He might as well be any other color, right? He's no longer the Sixth Ranger. He's just a Ranger. If this was a full list of like every version of Power Rangers, or again even just bringing in the Disney era Rangers, he'd be lower on this list. Not my goat, but one of the goats. Andros is an easy top tier red. Top tier red. As much as I like some of the other reds, none of the other reds come close to what Andros pulled off. His narrative with Corone, not just the backstory with Corone, but how well the Corone story mixed into the plot of the season. And also, obviously, Andros ended the season. He could have easily, if Power Rangers in its entirety had ended with the Z-Wave, I would be satisfied with that ending. I think it would be just as popular today. Maybe not just as popular, not as pop culturally well known as it is today, but it would have been just as nostalgically well known and niche interest as it is for the old heads. Andros gave us the Battleizer. Andros gave us the fucking Battleizer. A concept so nice, Sentai stole it back. Trini, the OG. It is really a bummer. If I had a time machine and infinite money, I'd do a lot of things. But if I had a time machine and infinite money, I would go back and I would make it so that we never had to replace half of the cast the way we did in season 2. Because it's not fair. It's not fair to them as actors. It's not fair to the audience. Going back and rewatching season 2 when I was watching it for the channel and realizing, oh wow, we have like over half a dozen episodes of using really shitty body doubles and recycled footage to hide the fact that they fired half the cast. And that pisses me off. That pisses me the fuck off. What I want to acknowledge of the original Mighty Morphin cast is they laid down the archetypes that we know for Power Rangers. And so I think B tier for now for Trini. Trini I might move up or down. We'll see. Okay, Zane. Zane, not bad. This could easily swap places with White Ranger Tommy, but of the 4 Sixth Rangers in the universe of the show, Zane had so little to do. They burned through the Mega Silver footage so goddamn fast that they had to send him off to help with the KL30 or whatever number, whatever planet number. He had to go help the rebels and was off screen for ages and ages because they just didn't have enough footage. They brought him back just to hawk the merchandise of that Dune Buggy toy, which I love. The Dune Buggy was sick, but I could easily swap Zane and Tommy. I'd be fine with that, but I think contributions to the show, to the seasons they were in, I do think White Ranger Tommy rates higher than Zane. I guess the real question is, now I'm really happy with Billy as my top blue, TJ as my second best blue. So I guess the real question is Rocky a better Blue Ranger than Justin? Yeah. Now, much like TJ, Rocky is a better blue than he is a red. He definitely was more comfortable as the Blue Ranger, and actually some of his best episodes were like when Jason came back as the Gold Ranger, and everybody was dogging on him. To the point that even the automatic door wouldn't open for him. He almost walked into the door of the command center just to illustrate the point of just how much the universe was crapping on him. and how much he was second guessing his own worth. So yeah, I think that he was much happier, much better on the show as a Blue Ranger than as a Red. This is not even a contest. Turbo Red Tommy's bottom of the Red Ranger list. Bottom of the Red Ranger list. No feats to his name in universe. Didn't show up for his own fucking graduation. He was so checked out. Both the character and honestly, from what I've read, the actor were so fucking checked out at that point that he just didn't want to be there. He didn't want to be there. There were multiple episodes of the first half of Turbo where they did all of the monster affecting their civilian lives shenanigans, and then when it was time for the final it's Morphin time and then teleport into the battle, he would teleport into the command center just to get a half sentence update, shout it's Morphin time, stealing the spotlight from whoever the episode was actually dedicated to, because normally whoever the episode is focused on, whether it's Sentai or Rangers, they're the ones who gets to do the call out. Tommy would fucking teleport in the first half of Turbo just to steal the fucking spotlight. Like a dick. Green Ranger Adam. Top of the list. Top of the Green Ranger list. His only other competition is Carlos and himself. Both of which, poor bastards, only have half a season. I have 2 Turbo Greens on here, and I only have 1 other Green Ranger. So the competition is not a competition. Adam, Green Ranger, Zeo Green Ranger takes the cake. It's not Adam's best form. If I was rating Adam's forms just against Adam's forms, Mighty Morphin Black would of course be at the top. Not just from nostalgia, but also just because he had more shit in those 3 seasons. He did more shit. He had more character episodes. He had more shit to do. I do think, that's a tough decision. You know what? Do I put... Okay, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put Tanya... We're going to move Trini up a notch. And we're going to put Tanya below her for now. That she might slide further down, depending on where I feel about the other yellow Rangers. Come on, Zeo Gold, not Justin! Thank goodness. Okay, so, Zeo Gold. First of all, it should have been Billy. It should have been Billy. The only reason it wasn't Billy was because David Yost had the apparent audacity to be open with his sexuality. I'm wearing this hoodie for a reason. I have to put him... I'm going to put him higher than White Ranger Tommy, though. Because, for one thing, as we've been talking about, White Ranger Tommy wasn't a 6th Ranger. At that point, he was just a Ranger. He was the team leader. He was either deliberately by the writing or because of JDF's behavior, insisting on being the star of the show. The 6th Ranger isn't that. The 6th Ranger is a additional team member who comes in for support, again, the heavy hitter, which he absolutely was. And it was an event when he came in. It should have been Billy, though. If this was a more proper tier list, he would be lower on the list, especially because of Austin St. John's behavior. But yeah, I'm gonna put him there. Is Green Ranger Adam more impressive than Green Ranger Carlos? Turbo Adam more than Turbo Carlos? I'm actually gonna say yes, and that's not to dunk on Carlos. The reason I'm putting Adam higher than Carlos is simply because, again, like with everyone who came in to be a Ranger, a new Ranger halfway through Turbo, the writing clearly didn't fucking know what to do with them. Carlos's 1 episode before he became a Ranger was better than any other episode he got in Turbo. Now, he had much better episodes during In Space, obviously, but he really did not get to do much during Turbo because none of them did. Like, what color we run out of first? Although technically we ran out of 6 Ranger firsts. We ran out of blue first! So yeah, this is again not really a debate. Justin is the bottom of the blue list. It is funny that part of the reason I was talking about it earlier, part of the reason that Blue Rangers are considered the smart ones is partly because of Justin. Billy is an obvious genius. Billy's obviously very neurodivergent, but we didn't talk about that in the 90s. We used a very inappropriate word for that. Justin, Blue Ranger, tests out and places in high school. Um, Part of the reason we consider Blue Rangers to be smart by default is because of this little fuck. It's also so awkward that in a season entirely based around cars, one of the Rangers is a child. I know he gets bigger when he morphs, but technically he needs a booster seat. Not to say he's a bad Ranger. It's not to say he's a bad Ranger. He's better than a lot of the Rangers on this list. Both of these Reds, he is better than. It feels like a jump the shark moment. That's a fair point. It does feel like a jump the shark moment because from what I understand, they were trying to capitalize on Beetleborgs gaining popularity because those were kids who turned into the space sheriff suits, and it's a whole fucking thing. But not on the pink goat, the girl goat. The ewe? What are female goats called? Female sheep are called ewe. What are female goats called? Whatever female goats are called, that's Kimberly. Alright, it cut her off, but this is an S. This is an undebated S. Um it's Kimberly. Female goats are called doe. Really? Same as deer? That's interesting. Let's not forget, led the team when she got sent back to the Wild West. Led the team. Gave us the Wild West Rangers, which is just the Mighty Morphin Rangers with Fringe, which is hilarious. But still, she did it. But she had absolutely phenomenal character focused episodes. For one thing, also, aside from Billy, she has the longest running career of a Ranger. She lasted, of the original lineup, she was there from episode 1 until they switched her out in season 3. Billy is the only one who lasted longer than her. I think Tommy has more episodes, but that's just because he came in later and stayed longer than Billy did. Um, so I think we gotta acknowledge it. And then Amy's acting. Multiple times when she got mind controlled, the way I love when an actor gets to have like a mind control or a brain swap episode, like what happened during In Space when Astronema disguised herself as Ashley and then the actress for Ashley got to really show off her range. Similarly for Amy Jo Johnson, the episode when she and Billy switched bodies, the two of them did a great job acting like the other character. Very good job. When the two of them did the Zhu Ranger episode when they got the potion to turn them evil, um, the evil clones that happened at one point, um, the I think it was like a gardening or a flower episode where she was the only one to get mind controlled, and there's this great scene where she's gardening and gets called and like does this big huff, answers and like yes Zordon, and when she hangs up the communicator she just goes Morphin time. Like it's so sassy and I love it. And then again, and people are already mentioning it in the chat, when they put her in Rita's costume and she fucking nailed Barbara's voice. It was amazing. So yeah, that's and episode for every time it was a Pink Ranger focused episode, you knew it was gonna be a fucking banger. Just every fucking time. Ooh, those were smooth. Another turbo. Unfortunately, just like all the other turbos, I could easily swap Turbo Ashley with Turbo Tanya. It could be either or without much fuss. I think I'm gonna leave them like this though, simply because I know that in space Ashley got to do more, had better episodes. Like, it's the same argument I've been making with every single Turbo Ranger. When you are splitting the team across half the season for each of them, aside from fucking Justin, you don't end up with much to fucking say. Another goat. I am actually a little torn on, do I think Black Ranger Adam is more impressive than Black Ranger Zach? I am actually really torn now that I think about it. I think I have to give it to Zach. And this is not just nostalgia. Hear me out. Hear me out. The reason I have to give it to Zach is that, just like Billy, just like Kimberly, it has to be. He's the one who set the standard for what we expect of Black Rangers, or whoever on the team is the cool one. Hip Hop Keto, that people are already mentioning in the chat, is part of that, of course, which if they had switched to the Die Ranger suits, you could have used Die Ranger Yellow's Drunken Fist as a dancing style. You don't have to call it drunk. They could have done so goddamn much with the Die Ranger stuff. We're calm. We're not talking about that right now. We're talking about just the Rangers themselves. Apologies, Walter, that it cut off your face. But yeah, that's an S tier. That's an S tier. You gotta acknowledge the origins of this shit. If we did not have Mighty Morphin, we would not have any other Rangers. If we had started with any other season, we probably would not have had Rangers last as long and be as successful as we did. You have to acknowledge it. And then that's, again, also not even getting into like the Zhu 2 footage. Zach is the only other Ranger to equip something similar to a battleizer. He got to wear the dragon shield. The only other character who got to do that was Jason. God damn. Okay, so Catherine. I'm going to move. This might be a little bit of a hot take, but I'm going to put Cassie's In Space Pink higher, and I'm going to put Catherine's Mighty Morphin right there. Catherine's Mighty Morphin is definitely better than her Turbo and her Zeo. Her Zeo was just a 1-for-1 from O-Ranger. Catherine had a great storyline both before she got the Ranger powers and after, when she still had the Ninjetti powers. It's just not as good as Cassie getting a whole season within space. Cassie had some really fun moments, and she's also just a really fun character. By the time season 3 of Mighty Morphin rolled around, Catherine didn't even get to pilot her own fucking Zord for half the time that she was the Pink Ranger. Because the Falcon Zord was captured, they put her in the back seat of her own Crane Zord. Fucking Tommy was piloting the Crane Zord until they got the Falcon Zord back. She was standing behind his chair, poking random buttons on the wall like a good little spouse, because obviously that's what they were building to. Also, canonically, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but canonically the only Rangers who are confirmed to get married at some point, right? Because we've seen flash forwards where they have grandchildren. Ashley in space. Okay. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to put her higher. As tempting as it is to put another Mighty Morphin in S tier, I'm going to put Ashley in S tier. I'm sorry. In Space is probably the narratively strongest season of the Zordon era. And a lot of that comes down to not just the fact that they have 6 years of lore to draw upon, but also the characters getting to do as much as they did. And that comes down to things like Ashley's interactions with Andros and Zane and Corone to a lesser degree. Again, I mentioned it earlier. I forget the actress's name for Ashley. But the acting that she got to do when Astronema disguised herself as Ashley the acting she got to show off was phenomenal when she's walking around the mega ship as when Corona is walking around the mega ship as Ashley or Strawn, whatever, it's the same person. Yeah, I think she's my favorite yellow. I think she's my favorite Yellow Ranger. Just from the Zordon era, I think she's my favorite Yellow Ranger. I'm gonna move Catherine's turbo down a spot so that her Zeo can be here. Yeah, I think this is fair. I think her Mighty Morphin. Actually, you know what? Actually, I'm moving her Mighty Morphin down below her Zeo. I think she did more shit as Zeo Pink than she did as Mighty Morphin Pink. Even if she can't fucking swim, apparently. Still not as good as Cassie's in space, and certainly not as good as Kimberly. The dough. I'm gonna put Aisha above Trini. Actually, no, wait, no, I'm not. Where am I gonna put? So we've got Ashley, Trini, Tanya, Ashley again. I am going to move. I'm gonna move Turbo. I'm sorry. I'm gonna move Turbo Ashley down to the bottom to make space, and I'm gonna move. I'm gonna put both turbos for Tanya. Both turbo yellows down to the bottom. I'm gonna put Aisha here because she's not my favorite yellow, but I can't deny that she has some very well-known episodes, well acknowledged episodes. Um, and what she had to work with, just like anyone who came in halfway through season 2 of Mighty Morphin, she honestly did the best job of the three of them. Rocky had some shit episodes. Steve Cardenas did not have a lot to work with and felt very uncertain in his role. Johnny Young Bosch did a better job, but again wasn't given much. But she honestly, oh gosh, I'm sorry. What's Aisha's real name? What's the actress's name? She jumped right the fuck into it with no hesitation, and you got to acknowledge that. So the only reason I'm putting Jason higher than Rocky or Turbo Tommy. Turbo Tommy was never fucking there. Rocky didn't get anything to work with. Jason, Austin St. John, we've already talked about his behavior when he came up as the Gold Zeo Ranger. I can't really condone it. I can't be happy about it. In fact, it's frankly insulting. But the man threw hands with Goldar. The man threw hands with Goldar, unmorphed, in one of the many dark dimensions. You got to give credit where due for that. Now again, this is not C tier as in how you would normally use a tier list. Ignore the S, the A, etc., etc. This is just I needed to be able to stack all of the reds on top of each other. So now that we have all of the reds, you can see this is where I rate them. Andros, DJ, Zeo Tommy, Jason, Rocky, Turbo Tommy. We only got a couple left. Alright, Turbo Cassie. Same problem. Again, it's the same problem of any of the Turbo Rangers. They just didn't have anything to do. I could easily switch, for Turbo, I could easily switch Kat and Cassie or Tanya and Ashley on these spots because with only half a season to their name, they had jack shit to do. They're about comparable to each other. Cassie had a great introduction. Honestly, I was joking about it earlier, but her introduction on the bus gives you a very quick introduction to what her character is like. She's happy-go-lucky, but then also when people need help, she leaves her own luggage behind to go help people when she sees the smoke over the hill. And then she throws hands with Piranhatrons. She doesn't live in Angel Grove. She maybe saw them on the news. Yeah, I gotta give her credit as a person. She is willing to just fucking lay it all down and help people. And the same conversation we just had for the Greens. It's Carlos Carlos and Adam, I could easily swap these two spots. Again, I said it before, Carlos's introduction episode before he got powers at least established his character, so he wasn't a completely new face. Although a lot of his introduction was dependent on Adam being his soccer coach at that point. So Turbo really just drive shafted their cast. I'm actually gonna put Tanya in Zio above Aisha. Aisha kind of pulled a really shitty move by staying in the past and fucking with the timeline, fucking with Tanya's life. Tanya lost at least 5 to 10 years of her lifespan by being forcibly aged up when she went to the future. Never mind the fuckery with the timeline that I've got ranted at length about. But she was willing to give up a lot to come to the future and be a Power Ranger. Now, again, Turbo, her time in Turbo was pretty embarrassing. But her time in Zeo was honestly pretty impressive, all things considered. I would have liked if they had gone a little more in depth with what that meant with for her. Like, really emphasize she needs to learn how to use a phone. She needs to learn what it's like to go to a shopping mall. But that would require filming on location, and they're not going to fucking do that. So, and then Adam, Black Ranger Adam, somebody mentioned it earlier, when he came in season 2, he just didn't have the sauce yet that he had when he came back in later seasons. If we were including his Operation Overdrive cameo, never mind his Operation Overdrive cameo, if we were just including the time he came back with the broken morpher, he would be tied with Zack. If we included Overdrive, he would be beating Zack. But Zack set the standard, and Adam maintained it. Adam definitely did better as a Green Ranger than as a Black Ranger. But yeah, this is why. So again, now that we have everyone on here, this is why I have 6 rows, so that I can stack all of the reds on top of each other, all of the blues on top of each other, and so on and so on. If I did them in order, it would look like, it would be all jumbled up like this. I wanted to be able to stack the colors on top of each other, and this was the only way I could figure out how to do that using the tier lists. So thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun doing that live stream, and I'm planning to do more in the future with, Sentai villains, overall, Ranger teams once we start hitting, since we're going to be going into the standalone teams once we hit Lost Galaxy going forward. But the Zordon era really does kind of stand on its own, and it's a unique beast because of the continuity between the 6 seasons. That's really the only batch of seasons I feel you could really do comparisons the way I was doing them here. And but yeah, hope you enjoyed it. For those watching on YouTube, going into next month, at the time of this upload, going into next month, you're getting the Godzilla movies. They should be able to be viewable on YouTube without issue. Kamen Rider Kuga the following month, which is still blocked. Those videos are being blocked on YouTube. If I cannot get them to upload to YouTube, I will make them free on the Patreon, because I never want people to lose access to something. Or you can watch them on the Patreon now. They've been available now. Anyway, yeah, stay tuned for more live streams in the future. If you're not already following me on TikTok, kind of want to say don't, because I'm getting fed up with that app, but you can follow me on Twitch, because anytime I do a stream, it'll also be on Twitch. And you can find me there. There's a link for that down below. And let me know what you think about some of these rankings. I ended up keeping a lot of this footage in. I didn't trim out nearly as much as I was expecting. But I hope you had fun with it. I hope you had much fun watching it as I did recording it. The goat!